Excited that you have joined us for what we're about to embark on, which is a conversation around increasing college applications, college admissions amongst high school students and transfer students in these times. And we really are committed to that. And we have a great group of people here who are going to be sharing with you ways that we see to accomplish that together. And my name is Estefania Hermosillo. And I work at Immigrants Rising, and we are the ones hosting today's webinar. And I remember my first conversation with a counselor around college when I was in high school, and how scared I was to even say and admit to going to college, how much worry I had about whether I wanted to go to college or not. And the fear that came from telling this counselor about my immigration status in particular. At the time, I didn't have legal documentation in the United States. And I can really only imagine what it's like for students today. It was hard for me then, and what it's like right now in the space in which we're all virtual. And this is the way to connect for most of us. So today really is going to be around breaking through some of those things, and you as an educator creating ways to have these conversations proactively with the students on your campus. And I'm excited, and I look forward to everything that we're going to learn together. And now I want to introduce my colleague, Rocio, who's also going to be facilitating and co-hosting this webinar. Rocio?
Thank you, Estefania, and thank you all for joining us. If you're joining us through Facebook Live, feel free to add your comments, your questions via the comment section. And for all of you who registered and are joining us through our Zoom account, you're welcome to share your comments and your questions using the chat and the Q&A. And I am super excited to be hosting this webinar with you all. Similar to Estefania, I was formerly undocumented, and I did wonder whether it was going to be possible for me to be able to go to college as an undocumented student back in 2009. And I remember that it was an educator who said to me, it is not fair that someone who does not get it is not fair that someone who has worked so hard does not get the chance to go to college because they do not have a social security number. And this is really the role that a lot of you who are watching this webinar, who are joining us, in yourselves embody in the work that you're currently doing during these times as things change and as things shift. And so it is also one of the messages that a lot of the educators that are joining us today are embodying with the work that they're currently doing. And so we're excited to be having a panelist with us. We're having Michelle Diaz, who is the Pledge Center coordinator at Katella High School. And she was also the Norgates Marquette's Hispanic Heritage Honoree, given all of the work that she has been doing working with high school students. And we also have Jorge Montijo, who is a college counselor at Panorama Senior High School in Magnets. And he is the 2020 recipient of the Arthur S. Marmaduke and is High School Counselor Award in California. And so we're super excited to be having high school counselors that have been working on an ongoing basis in making sure that high school students get access to a college education. And we also have with us Leticia Silva, who is a college counselor at San Francisco City College. And is a counselor for the City Dream Center. And so we also want to remember that there are students at the community college level who are seeking and finding ways to be able to transfer to four-year universities. And so today, as the college application deadline is approaching this November 30th, we want to make sure that we make that hard push to make sure that all students are applying to college and that we take in our own hands, really, the work and the need to make sure that all these students know that college is a possibility independent of their immigration status. And this is really what we're all about at Immigrants Rising, making sure that undocumented young people are able to access not just a college education for the sake of getting an education, but really to make sure that they are being able to contribute to bettering their own lives, the lives of their families, and also the lives of their communities. And so I hope that you're able to get a lot of learning lessons out of this webinar, and we're looking forward to engaging with you all. And Estefania is gonna go over some of the items that we're gonna share with you all today.
Thank you, Rocio. And if you can please just share the screen so you can share the PowerPoint. And many of you might find that as I'm speaking, it's really great for you to visually see what we're going to be discussing. So we will have paired with this webinar, this presentation. And for today, really, we're covering 4 main points, which is addressing what students' concerns are currently from our perspective, from what we've seen on the ground, what it looks like to successfully apply for admissions as an undocumented student. We're also going to be sharing with you a new guide, like an updated resource and perspectives from this resource that we've compiled together that can help you as an educator in supporting students to successfully submit their application. And then our speakers, our panel, really who work within high schools, within community colleges, have and will provide some of those promising practices that increase submission, along with some resources that we'll share with you. Thank you, Rocio. And one thing that's really important to know, and part of why we have this conversation, is there's a 98,000 undocumented students that graduate from high school every year. This is new research that came out from a previous report that had mentioned it was 65,000. We can now know that it's about 98,000 undocumented students that are graduating from high school every year. So this is pertinent for us all. And specifically in California, what you can see here is that in California, there's 30.7% of those students that graduate high school every year reside in California. So a lot of what we will be discussing today is much more relevant within the state of California and the applications into the UCs and the CSUs. And part of that is why it's so important. We have a high population of undocumented students here in California. And then next, Rocio. Now, this same report published said that both unauthorized and legally present students from similar social demographic backgrounds have similar graduation rates, and their legal status differences have a larger impact on actually enrolling in college. So essentially, students are graduating at the same rate when they come from similar backgrounds. Even when someone does not have legal status in the United States, graduation rate is again about the same amongst all of the other indicators. It's legal status that then impacts enrolling in college. And that's where we're working, like that gap, closing that gap, and having students that do not have legal status also enroll in college and have that opportunity as well. And what we've seen consistently is, despite political climate, it's undocumented people just show the resilience and innovation in the face of all of these legal and political challenges. I always mention that, DACA in itself was caused by undocumented students. Those students that you see in high school that don't turn on their cameras right now. Well, what are they? They're the next people that will be leading classrooms, that will be leading events, right? Their behaviors now don't depict necessarily their full future, and that undocumented students are going to continue to show resilience and innovation in the face of what we continue to deal with in this country. And now Rocio with addressing the students' concerns.
Yeah, so now we're gonna go over some of the things that we have seen on the ground and some of the most common patterns as to what has it that oftentimes undocumented young students and folks are left out from actually applying to college. And oftentimes there are a lot of different messages that are out in the community, and even things that as an undocumented student, even for myself, some of these things were very relevant to how I thought of my possibilities as being able to go to college. And so one of the most common things, and I think this is one of the things that you all might actually be able to see within the students that you work with, is this idea that they won't be able to afford college because there is no financial aid available. So that is one of the most common themes and myths that a lot of young people, as a high school student, even as a parent, that we believe that I can't afford college, there's no financial aid available. The other major concern is I don't want to put my family at risk by disclosing their personal information. And the other one is, and I remember that I had this question myself, and I had family members asking me, why should I even go to college if I won't be able to work? And this is a reality and things that are going through students' minds. And so we're going to be sharing with you a little bit of more about like what are some messaging? How can you go about tackling some of these ideas that students have believed about what they see as possible for themselves. And so it's really important to always remind students that yes, that there is financial aid available for students who meet the AB 540 eligibility. This is a law here in California that grants state financial aid. So it's really important when a student says, I won't be able to afford college, letting them know there is state aid available. Let's find out how, and if you meet the AB 540 eligibility, so that you can access the state financial aid that is available for you through the California Dream Act. And let's remember that DACA is not required. And this really is what it is available for undocumented students. So even on our website, we do have this list that if you get the opportunity to work with students to be able to really share with them visually, this is what you would be eligible for. So really it undoes that myth and that idea that they have. And if you haven't already, you can always check out our in-state tuition qualifier so that you can direct students into how they can go ahead and apply and be eligible for in-state tuition, as well as being able to access state financial aid. The other concern that I would mention was around student safety. It's really important that even though we know that their information is protected, it's really important to explicitly tell a student there is a law and FERPA is available. It is a law that will protect your information and your family's personal information. Colleges and universities will not share your information, your immigration status with third party agencies, and CSAC, financial aid, also will not share and disclose your information. It's really important to be explicit and tell students your information is protected and there is a law that protects your information and your family's personal information. And we do have a resource that you can continue to check out on our site that you can always direct students to. Now, the third misconception is, well, why should I even go to college if I'm not going to be able to work? Okay, yes, there's state financial aid, great. Okay, yes, my information is being protected, but what's the point if I won't be able to work? We do have access to alternative ways of making a living resources. And there are ways in which a lot of members of our community are earning a living and are really finding entrepreneurship as an alternative option to be able to earn a living. And we do have a collection of stories of how a lot of entrepreneurs have been able to utilize their skills, their talents, their degrees, and what they know and their passions to be able to earn a living and thrive here in the United States. And just to share, there is one quote: entrepreneurship is freedom and creativity. It's being proud of where I came from. It's giving the next generation a better change. Being able to introduce high school students, transfer students to these different possibilities outside of their immigration status. And these are some of the resources that you can continue to access and share students so that we begin to undo all of these assumptions that many times students are thinking and are feeling, might not be sharing them out loud, but it's really important to make explicit and available and visible in terms of the possibilities that are there for our young people. And so we're now going to go ahead and transition into making sure that students are actually applying to college. And so there are some common challenges as an undocumented student that oftentimes they come across when they're actually completing the college application. I remember when I was sitting in the computer lab of a college access organization that I was a part of, and even of my high school, where I was answering questions that I wasn't sure I was supposed to be answering, and that I thought were questions to have me be found out about my immigration status. And I have to be honest, as an undocumented student, I was very intimidated when I was looking at some of these questions and answering some of these questions. And so one of the things that we're going to be sharing with you all today are what are some of those questions that oftentimes students see as roadblocks and may limit their ability to actually submit a college application. And with that, we're also going to be sharing an amazing resource that was just launched this week so that you can utilize it and get students connected to. But first, we would like to just remind you all of the admissions timeline. And as you all are working towards this November 30th deadline, it is really important that a lot of the messaging around submitting and completing college applications should start early on. And really a lot of that messaging, a lot of those myths, a lot of those conversations need to happen beforehand in preparation of making sure that students are mentally ready to actually open up the application, say, yes, I'm going to apply, and actually submitting those applications. And so also important to remember that there are application fee waivers for students. And I am seeing that, yes, and making sure that students are accessing all of those fee waivers in which they are eligible for. Now I am seeing, so yes, correction. So the CSU application deadline is December 4th. Thank you so much for that note. Now there are some areas where students get stuck when it comes to the college application. For example, one of the section is in the Social Security number section. There are some questions that are going to be coming up for students that might feel triggering, that might feel, I'm not sure how I should answer this, or should I even be answering this question? So as students are applying for admissions at the CSU, they will be asked whether they have a Social Security number. So it's important that undocumented students who do not have a Social Security number feel comfortable that it is okay to answer no. If they answer no, they will be giving a temporary number to continue with their application. And if the student does have a Social Security number through DACA, they are going to be able, and they can utilize their DACA Social Security number in their college applications. I know oftentimes there's this question of like, but my Social Security number says it's for work only. They are able to use their Social Security number in their CSU college applications. The other section is around the residency question. And this question for students who are DACA recipients, it is important to know that DACA does not grant students citizenship status. So for students who are undocumented, they should feel comfortable answering none in this section. And they will then have the opportunity to specify what is their country of citizenship. If it's outside of the United States, they'll be able to identify the country in which they're citizens of. Now, that does not mean that the student will then have to pay out-of-state fees. There are other questions that are asked of the student to determine their in-state tuition eligibility in the application. The other section of the application is the parent guardian residency question. This is also an area where students might feel hesitant to answer in an interest of protecting their family and their family safety. And for their parent, if their parent is a permanent, if the parent resides in California, they should be able to specify yes in the application, and whether they have been present in California since birth, or since when they have been present here in California. If no, then they should feel comfortable, and it is safe for them to indicate international if they are outside of the country. And they can also indicate other or unknown if they do not know. Now, at the UC level, within the UC applications, there are also questions around citizenship and social security number, as well as residency status. So within the UC application, very similar, it might look different at the CSU compared to the UC. But again, under the country of citizenship, undocumented students should select no selection. Now, when the student selects no selection on the UC application, that then allows them to skip additional questions that would ask them about their legal permanent residency or visas. In terms of the social security number, again, if the student has a social security number through DACA, they are able to utilize their social security number that they were granted through DACA. If they have an individual tax identification number, an ITIN number, they're also able to use their ITIN number in the application. And if they don't have a social security number through DACA, or if they don't have an ITIN number, they can also leave this section blank. Again, it's important to be able to communicate some of these things with students as they're approaching some of these questions, because they can be intimidating. It can be intimidating to answer these questions and to feel like you are probably being asked to determine whether you should really be applying to a college or a university, or whether it's actually for you. This application is for you. So it's really important to let students know these are some of the questions that you might be coming across. And this is how you answer these questions, and it is totally safe. In terms of California residency, within the UC application, they also get asked around California residency, and this is to be able to determine whether they will be considered residents of California for admission purposes within the university. And some of the questions that the student will come across include whether they have attended a California high school in California for 3 or more years and graduated from a California high school. Questions such as, how long have you lived in California? Is your parent or legal guardian a legal permanent resident of California? Is your parent, legal guardian, spouse, or registered domestic partner an employer of UC or a UC affiliated national laboratory? So this is to be able to determine the eligibility for students to be considered in-state students for admission purposes, and also oftentimes for tuition purposes. They will also be asked about their parents' residency or citizenship status. So again, these are some questions that might feel intimidating for the students. So when the student submits their application, they are going to be asked about their parents' citizenship status, such as, is your parent a US citizen? Has your parent been physically present in California for at least 3 years? Again, the student does not need to answer these questions, but if they do answer these questions, they are encouraged to answer these questions truthfully. And again, providing the student the reassurance that the information is safe, it's protected, and that information of their parents will not be shared outside of the organization. It will not be used for anything other than for admission purposes at the colleges and universities. Now, one of the things that I do want to note is that there is a difference between being a California resident for admission purposes. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be considered a resident for tuition purposes. So it's important that students do meet the AB 540, AB 2000, SB 68 eligibility so that they're able to be granted in-state tuition. Now, this is another form that the student will come across once they actually go into the university. And this is the UC Santa Cruz version, which is the Statement of Legal Residence. I remember when I got this form from UC Santa Cruz, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I am being outed. I'm being found out. They want to make sure that I should actually go to college. Did I make a mistake? Was I not supposed to apply? And now they're trying to verify whether I should actually be here. This form, it is a student that the student will get. They'll probably freak out as much as I did. But this is, again, to be able to confirm and to determine their residency status for admission purposes at the university. So they are going to be stating whether they claim residency in California. If they are a dependent student, they are going to be filling out information about their parent as well. And again, this information is protected. Aside from that form, some of you may already know, there is also the non-resident tuition exemption request. Again, this form is required to be sent out after the student has submitted their intent to enroll at a college and at universities for them to be able to be granted in-state tuition fees. And it's really important to make sure that the student submits this form and that they find out whether there is a specific deadline in which they need to submit this form by. Now, there are many more questions within the college application, which is why we're very excited to have 2 new resources. One for first-time college students who are going to be attending a 4-year university, and also for transfer students. And we're gonna go ahead and add both of the resources in the chat box so that you can use this resource and share it with the students. If you are right now currently working with students in a virtual setting, this is something that you can go ahead and email and share with the students so that it can facilitate their application submission process for them.
Great, thank you, Rocio. And I put in the chat box the one for the first-time freshmen. And, you know, we also wanted to mention that there's one for transfer students, which we will post briefly. And whenever a student is going to go to a university, we do recommend that they have these questions in mind. Do you have an undocumented student center? You know, these are questions that they can potentially ask of the university. Feel free to take a screenshot of this and you would have these questions at hand. And what we want to do next is that we want to introduce you to the panel for promising practices to increase college submissions for first-time freshmen. And the first person that is going to be speaking today is going to be Michelle Diaz from Pledge Center Katella High School. And she's going to let us know a little bit about herself and the best practices that she has for us. Michelle?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. A little bit about myself. This is my 6th year doing this job. When I was hired, my boss asked me what I knew about financial aid, and having been through the process, I was very familiar with it. And he basically allowed me to create the center and build it because we are the only pledge center, which is really a college and career center. We just changed the name, but We are the only pledge center in our district, and we have 12 high schools in our district. I was born in Mexico City. I did immigrate here with my family. I was illegal for some time. Thankfully, I am now an American citizen, but that happened about 8 years ago. 8 years ago, yes. So it wasn't too long ago that I became an American citizen. But I grew up in Boyle Heights. I have my BA in Liberal Studies from Cal State Fullerton. And really the focus of my job is to make sure that all of my students, before they leave us with a plan, and they are aware of all the resources that are available to them, because really that's really our job as educators, to make sure to inform these students about the resources that are available to them regardless of legal status, right? Whether a student is documented or undocumented, there are resources available to them, Immigrants Rising being one of them. Thank you. And yeah, we are pretty successful in our FAFSA submission every year. We have the highest submission rate for our students because we really tend to push the importance of a college-going community, and also the importance of financial aid, because there really is free money out there. If you qualify, really all what students need to do is fill out the application. It's as simple as that. Fill out either the FAFSA or the DREAM Act, and that opens so many doors for students to qualify for additional grants and monies from the university and community colleges as well. So some of the best practices that have worked for us, being that this is our 6th year with this program, is that we've already created a college-going culture here at Katella. So once students become seniors, they are already conditioned to know that they will be coming to the Pledge Center to work with Ms. Diaz, right? They know that they will be taken care of, they will be guided, they know that there are systems in place that will guide them as they navigate the college application seasons, along with financial aid. Something that we have done here that tends to work for us is that we break the fall and the spring semester to service students according to deadlines. So the fall semester, we focus it on having universities show up and present to students during lunchtime. From October 1st through November 30th, we focus on college application workshops. We host a senior push day, which is one day. We typically hold that during the PSAT day, and we call it senior push, and we focus on presentations on the UC, CSU, and the Common app. And we have those presentations for students for about 2 hours, and then after that, they break out into rooms and they begin their applications. This is all supported with the support of our college partners, the neighboring community colleges that service our students in the county. They are invited to participate. So we break that down, and then we also begin FAFSA. We host our annual Cash for College every November as well, to kick off our financial aid season. So our students are conditioned to that already, as are our families. And then in the spring, we focus on the community college system. And we again invite the community colleges to present. We host a CTE day as well, where we invite the community colleges in the county and their CTE programs to showcase for our students. We make sure to focus on both groups because there is a lot of importance not only on the four-year schools, but also the community colleges. I like to think that the community colleges are little gold mines. They have a lot of programs, not necessarily that students need to transfer. We understand that not everybody wants to go to a four-year institution, and that's totally fine. They can do a short 2-year program, and they are able to graduate. They can begin working, or they're able to graduate, and they're not worrying about having to pay back a student loan, and they're doing something that they love, right? Because they're focusing on the CT program of their choice. We also start early. We don't begin talking about college senior year. That's already kind of late. We start pushing it from the moment that they are 9th graders. Every time we have university presentations, that is open to all grade levels as well. Something important that I have learned about this job to be more successful, and more importantly, more successful in having a high financial aid application submission, is using your resources. The community partners are always available to help, to support the schools, because at the end of the day, these community colleges, these universities, they want our students to apply. They want our students to enroll with them. So that's a great practice for all of you to use your resources, use the community colleges that most of your students attend, and ask them to support your events, either Cash for College or application workshops. That's something that has always worked for us, and the students benefit from that because they are able to have that additional support, and for the families as well. Something that has also been more successful for us as well is the family engagement. Being that our students who are undocumented, when they're filling out their application, sometimes the parents are concerned. I always try to ensure our families about the FERPA law, that the universities are not sharing none of that information with the government. And I ensure families and I let them know that really these financial aid applications are for their students. They're not necessarily for them. It is a student's application. If a student meets the AB 540 requirement, they are able to apply for financial aid, and in many cases, they are able to attend to a college or university for free if they qualify, if they meet that requirement. So it's really about ensuring our families that it is a safe application for them to fill out, that their students qualify for AB 540. They are entitled to a free education. College is for everyone. I really am a firm believer of that. And that has been what has proven successful for us. And workshops, financial aid really is, it's very difficult to have, to make sure that everybody applies, because sometimes some of these parents need a lot of convincing. And what has also worked a lot for us is for us to have a lot of workshops. I have workshops in the evenings. I have workshops twice a month towards the end when FAFSA is due. I have them on Saturday mornings. And again, with the use of our partners, the universities that assist us are UCI and Cal State Fullerton, and they are really great about sending students who are in TRIO programs, who are the tutors for these TRIO programs, to come and support those events and guide the families as they are working on their application. They don't help them to submit. I make sure that I review the application for them, just because we want to avoid as many errors as possible. But we make sure to host all those workshops with the support of these community colleges and universities. So it's really important for you to reach out to your resources and to build that rapport with the students and with the families, because these families need a lot of reassurance, knowing that they are in a safe space and that they are able to share their information, and that it is not something that will have repercussions for them later on when they are trying to complete their immigration paperwork. It has nothing to do with that. These are two totally separate entities. They're not, it won't affect them. So it really is about reassuring our families that it's for the best for our students, and because we want them to have an opportunity to be able to go to college, and because it is possible for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you so much for what you're sharing, and just really thinking about it. Really is a community effort. And like you mentioned, oftentimes there's a need for a lot of convincing, and really comes down to the belief, like you mentioned, really staying grounded in the belief that all students, that college is for all students. Thank you so much for what you shared, and we are going to have a chance to answer questions towards the end. And for now, we're going to go ahead and have our next panelist, Jorge Montijo.
Hello, everyone. Jorge Montijo. I'm a college and career counselor at Panorama Senior High in Magnets. I'm very happy to be here with all of you today to share a little bit about my story. And, how do we get these things that Michelle is talking about? Because it is true, creating a college-going culture can be a daunting task, but just know that it's not just the responsibility of that college counselor, the advisor. It's the responsibility of every stakeholder in the community within that school to ensure that we keep moving forward, right? Um, and being an undocumented student myself, when I was in high school, I really didn't think about, my status, my immigration status much, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my future. Then when I started getting closer to graduation, I realized, okay, this is going to affect me. And as Rocio was saying, I started thinking about, well, what's the reason of me going to college if I'm not going to find employment? I don't have legal status in this country. And so, you start to, your mind starts to kind of, tell you, okay, you maybe need to hold back a little bit. But I always was told, if you take one class, it's better than taking no classes, right? And I never looked at it as I need to finish in 4 years. I would always say I need to finish this one time, because not only will this be better for my future, but for my family and being a role model in our community. And as Estefania was saying, the times have been very difficult for undocumented students here in this country, right? And but know that, um, with the support of everyone who's part of this webinar, right, you can create change in your community, right? You can inspire someone else to lead another person so that they too can believe that all of this is possible. And I think that's extremely important as we continue doing this work. And everyone who's here today, maybe taking a little piece from this webinar and applying to your practice. I know that we have a lot of high school students here, maybe college students who are still in programs. But just you got to keep going. You got to move forward, right? And so I've been doing this profession since 2006. Luckily, when I transfer out of the community college, after 6 years of being there, I finally gained legal residency in this country. And then I was able to transfer to CSUN, where I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And then I decided that I was going to continue on with a master's degree, because that's what I heard that LAUSD needed for me to be an academic counselor at the time. And so I pursued that degree, same place, Cal State University, Northridge. And then I was able to apply for a PPS credential. Gives me the opportunity to work in the K through 12 programs, but also gives me the ability to maybe one day apply at the community college if I choose to do so. And so, having been born in a different country, coming to Panorama City, moving out of that community, then coming back to work for that community, I honestly think that it was meant to be, right? Because I remember growing up there, very high poverty area. There's a lot of elements that keep our students from moving forward. And in 2019, the National Clearinghouse, it's an organization that keeps track of students who continue on to four-year universities. And in the history of Panorama Senior High, we were at 28% of sending students on to four-year universities. Now, that number might seem a little low to many of you, but if you know anything about Panorama City and what our challenges are, I think that's a very significant number, because it's about changing that culture and moving forward, right? And so my work is instrumental, but I never want to take credit for what I do. I always want to just credit my team for their great support. So if you can go on to the, okay. So it's about setting expectations, right? Our students need the support of the school community to believe that college is possible. And it's something that I do with educators all the time. When I hear, well, that kid is not meant to go to college, or this kid maybe should pursue a vocational program, or there might be something else available for that kid. And I always think to myself, is that something that I would want for my daughter, of someone else to say about her? No, I want her to believe that college is a reality, it's a possibility, and if you really want it, you'll go out there and seek it. And so the expectation comes of letting students know that applying doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be going, but that you have one more option available to you. in case you do decide your second. So developing the individual plan with every student, getting to really know that student, especially now we're dealing with a different element of distant learning, having to do it through Zoom. And so really get to know the student and how they're feeling before you even start the application process, right? And so that's extremely important to be able to adjust to their needs. I do have groups of students that I meet with on a daily basis, and we have the support of certain programs within our campus. But I do know that some students who are undocumented within those groups don't feel comfortable sharing out amongst that small group. So therefore, I have to do individual sessions with them so that we can work on the application and they feel supported. They can ask questions in Spanish if they need to, and so forth. And so I think that's the expectation is key. So at our school, we expect every student, as you can see here, if you have a 3.0 and above GPA, you're expected to submit a UC application, a CSU application, community college application, and a financial aid application. And so I often get, well, mister, I'm not going onto a UC. One more option, right? And when you ask students, why aren't you going? The same thing that Rocio was talking about was, well, my parents don't have the money to uh, put me through a 4-year university, especially a UC. We know that these campuses are extremely expensive, right? When you come and you look at the entire cost of attending. But I always present the scenario to the student. If you were to get accepted to a UC, if you had enough money available to you to attend the UC without having any loans, would you go then? Yes, right? And so then you're like, oh, okay, but is the application going to be free? Yes, it's going to be based on your parents' income. And we know that you come from a low income poverty community. And so the majority of our students will get all their tuition paid for, right? Then we have the expectation for our Cal State students, and the same goes for our community college students. We do have vocational programs that come into our campus, giving students the additional option, but I always want them to consider college as their first option, right? Because I know that this is what allow me to move up that social strategy, right? And allow me to move on. And not only that, but to gain the knowledge that no one will ever take away from you is extremely important. And I think that's key when it comes to the expectations. You can go on, please. And so once again, developing that college culture, it's a key element that all stakeholders are a part of this, right? Not one person can do every work by themselves. And so I understand that. So then we usually bring university visitors to present to all grade level students. We do have college and career fairs on our campus. There are a lot of great organizations out there. One in particular, the regional counseling in the state of California, I think it's RACA or RAC, that if you call them, they can actually find everyone to bring to your campus for free. And you can actually set up a college and career at your school. So I'll try to get the link and I'll put it on the chat once I'm done with my part of the presentation. But this is an organization that's willing to come out. Right now, we know that we're having to do all this virtually. So there's a lot of great opportunities for our families and our students to partake in these college and career fairs in a virtual world. And planning college field trips, right? That's important for our students. They often think as college as a foreign country, but once they see themselves on those campuses, I think they start to connect with people that look like them, who might dress like them, and so like, okay, I can see myself in college, right? And so exposing our students to those opportunities. And then the biggest thing that we do is we try to be as systematic as possible to ensure that we finish with all these applications. So we work with our English department teachers, more specifically our senior English teachers, to help our students start their personal insight questions for the UC application, and then the EOP questions for the CSU application. This is a graded assignment that they do in class. So once they are getting ready to just fill this part out in their UC and CSU app, all they got to do is copy and paste. They're ready to go. It's been checked by someone. We give a last review of it, and then we just allow students to submit. And once they're able to do that, they can submit their application. Uh, then their social studies department, it's key in allowing us to come in and do financial aid workshops. We try to tie it into the Common Core standards wherever we can fit it in, when it comes to economics, when it comes to government agencies and things like that. And so we know that this application is key when it comes to those components. So getting those teachers on board as well to allow us to come in, take some instructional time so that we can do this with our students. And the more opportunities, as Michelle was saying earlier, the many workshops you can have, the better off you're going to be. You're not going to be able to tailor one workshop for every student. We know that families often work 2 or 3 jobs. Oftentimes they can attend. So if a Saturday workshop works best for students, then that's what we'll do, right? We'll modify the way that we do our work so that we can meet the needs of our clients, which is our parents and our students. And then the key, people that work behind the scenes, our cafeteria workers, our clerical, our plant managers, that they set up these, the grounds, for college and career fairs, for these workshop spaces, especially in the Zoom world, where you always have to, share it out, put it on the calendar. And so these people that work behind the scenes, I think these are all key strategies in developing systematic things that you can do to allow to your college and career going culture to increase at your school. But know that yes, not everyone will go to college, but everyone should have the opportunity to submit an application to then decide if they want to pursue college or not immediately after they graduate from high school. And so it's the options, right? The options that we give our students. And if you are undocumented, you're in the process, I truly believe that there is going to be a lot of done for our dreamers. I think this is an opportunity for you to continue with your studies and move on. Take advantage of the opportunities with grants that are given to you by the state of California. There's a lot of scholarships out there as well. They're available, and there's for anyone. And I know that I've seen scholarships under Immigrants Rising for undocumented students, very friendly for them, but it also can be used by other students. And many of the universities that you're applying to, their admissions office will have scholarships that you can apply to if you intend to go to their campus. So there's so many opportunities out there. It'll take an hour for you to complete one of these scholarship applications. If it's a $500 scholarship, hey, who makes $500 an hour nowadays, right? Not very many people. So the more that you could prepare yourself, the more that you could take advantage of these opportunities that many will come for free to many of you, take advantage of that. Because in 3-4 years after you've graduated, then guess what? There might be that opportunity for dreamers to apply for legal status here in this country, and always never losing that belief that it can be possible, right? And you might be those people that will be key contributors, and hopefully in our government, that will allow other dreamers to continue with their studies. And I think that's very important, is that we prepare ourselves. If you can go on and get your master's program, go on and get your master's. If you can go on and get your doctorate, go on and get your doctorate. The more preparation, the better off we can be, not only for ourselves, but for our families and our communities. So thank you guys for having us. This work is key, especially for many of the attendees that are here, that are learning from everyone here. I think we can all do this and do it for our communities and elevate.
Thank you, Jorge. It seems like it got a little,
as someone who was born here from the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you, Jorge. It got a little cut off there. And so we appreciate you and thank you for everything you've had to share. We're now going to transition to Leticia. Leticia, so excited for what you're going to share around supporting high school students and also transfer students in community college.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I think we might have some San Francisco Unified School District counselors, so hello to you. That's one really big thing that we do is we have a partnership with San Francisco Unified, and we've had that for quite a while, and we do outreach to all the high schools. And one really important thing that I think is that there's a stigma around going to a community college instead of going to a UC or CSU. And when I first started this work, I would see all these people, oh, we're gonna apply to UC, we're gonna apply to CSU, those people go over there. Oh, Letty, you're here for City. Okay, we'll go in this little room over here with these few students that are left. And I really started to notice that we did. And so we really try to do the application drive and the financial aid drive and the dream drive during the time that CSU and UC students are doing it, so that they're all doing it together. We're all going to college no matter where we're going to go. And I really tried to push that's okay, that I went to a community college. My other colleague that is here also went to a community college, and that is possible and it's okay to go this route. So we have a really good partnership, and we really try to streamline the matriculation process, meaning the application and the orientation and the counseling. And what we really tried to do is work closely side by side with the counselors starting now. Like right now, I've already talked to, I'm just gonna do one school in particular that I work with, San Francisco International High School, which is a newcomer school. And I've been doing that for a while. I have a very close relationship with the counselor. I'm already going into the Zoom classes with the City Dream Center, I have a person that does financial aid, and then we have the coordinators. So we meet in the classroom, we get to know the students, and I start telling them, you're gonna see me a lot. I want you to get to know me. And I'm just gonna put a shout out to Oksana, who is the counselor there. And I'll say, hey, I'm gonna be your Oksana when you get there. Because they're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do without Miss Oksana? Well, I'm Miss Letty. And this is Jackie, and this is Catherine, and we're all here to help you. And so we start building that bridge right away, and we really feel like it's important. And really, they help us identify the undocumented students so that we could get the affidavit in, because that is really important. So when we have our application drives, we right away, okay, and we'll say, in person, if anybody, we also have the dream, and if anybody's undocumented, you can come up to me after, or whichever way is going to feel comfortable for you. And we also work really close with the counselor, and they help us identify these students so that they can get the dream in, so they can get the application in. And we really feel like that's important. And us working as a team, we really try to do that. And when we do the orientation and we do the counseling, we are there with them. When I do the counseling with them to figure out what they want to do, what classes they want to take, I go a step further. And also when it's time for them to register, we help them register the time that they want to go there. Sometimes they don't know, what time is going to work for you. Do you work? Do you know that you want to take 12 units? What does that mean? What does 12 units mean? So this is what it means. This is how many hours of homework you're going to need. How many hours are you working? And we start building that relationship early on so that we can start getting to know these students. And we also connect them with the City Dream Center, because the City Dream Center also we have the Immigrant Institution for Bay Area, IBA, so they can get legal services for free. We also are connected with the health center to get mental health, any kind of help that they need. But really, what's really important is that we have this really close relationship with San Francisco Unified. And we also tell students, and sometimes they'll say, oh no, I'm gonna go to a UC. And we'll say, you know what? Apply to City just in case you don't get in. Apply to City in case you change your mind, because we do get a lot of students that end up not going, and to have us as a backup. And also, not everybody wants to transfer, but if you do want to transfer, come and see me right away so that you'll know the classes that you're going to need to take immediately, so that you don't end up taking classes you don't need. Let's make an educational plan. Let's see what it looks like to go to UC Berkeley. Let's see what it looks like to go to San Francisco State. What are the differences? What are the different GE patterns that you're going to need? What is your major? Are you sure yet? So let's start taking some of these classes so that we can start going down that path. let's say you do want to get your associate's degree, let's go down that path. But if we start it, the sooner we start it, the better. And if you want to get an associate's degree in child development right now, that's perfect. You can do that as well. So we really try to encourage students to start this early, to start thinking about either the transfer process or getting an associate's degree or getting a certificate. And we have people coming in from different programs talking about their specific program. So yeah.
So great. Thank you, Letty.
And I think definitely one of the common themes that I've been hearing has been really around making sure that people are starting early. It is never too early to start with any of the process for some of these programming. And so thank you all so much for joining us. It has been such a great pleasure. We have actually had people who are joining us today who are also sharing resources. So we have shared some resources on our Facebook Live page, as well as in the chat box. We are going to be following up with people with some additional resources following the session. So if you did get a chance to register, you will get access to some of those resources. And so we are going to be wrapping up, and the last thing that we would like to share is some resources for you to be able to share with students. And here we have two resources that you can actually share with students. So one of them is our Instagram Live. We do go live every Tuesday from noon to 1 p.m. So feel free to tell your students to follow us on Instagram, and we're going to be answering college questions and also have students sign up to our student listserv. They're going to be able to get emails directly from Immigrants Rising once they sign up and be able to access Immigrants Rising resources. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope that you were able to take some lessons and a lot of some of these practices at your school. And
yes. And I'll just add that you can follow us on Instagram too, and you can come on live. We invite people to come on live with us during our Instagram. And so you can be the star of our next Instagram live session. So definitely encourage you to join us.